even had anything to drink yet. This is terrifying.
What were you saying?
I was saying I'm stone cold sober tonight.
Good. That's perfect. So you're ready to talk bodies beneath.
Oh, there's video on this, isn't there? There we are.
Yes. Yeah, you can hold things up.
Hey.
The Flip Side of British Film and Television by William Fowler and VIC PRATT, who I'm sure didn't get picked on at school at all for that.
Oh, I wouldn't imagine. We should mention, in case anybody hasn't noticed, that there's an extra head on screen today, that we have back former special guest and returning special guest.
Well, he's a bit less special now because it's a slightly tarnished.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
somewhat
kind of
besmirched.
factory second Darren Jones.
Hello, Darren Jones, and how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Yes, I'm very pleased to be back.
And of course, there's Nick as well, and myself,
yes.
As usual. There's no change in there. So yeah, Darren was brought on. I don't know, really. I thought he'd probably just quite enjoy talking about this book.
Yeah, I couldn't really work it out, but yeah, I was happy to dive into that.
Why not? Yes. So the flip side of British film and television, there's a specific reason why is it a word? I suppose it is a word. Flip side is used, and so not only is this a book, but when did this come out now? This is just a few years ago. So 2019 on Strange Attractor Press, who also put out the fantastic 2-volume, the 2 books on Jess Franco that Stephen Thrower wrote, which are also essential reading, I think. And so as well as this book, Fowler and Pratt programmed at the BFI South Bank, I guess, a season that went a lot. In fact, I think the season that they programmed prefigures the book, I think. I don't know how long the season lasted or how much of a crossover there is with what's in the book and what they programmed and all that, but did you, because you were in the area, Darren, did you by any chance get along to any of the BFI flip side?
No, it wasn't on my radar at all at the time. And yeah, I've been kicking around, that area for 20-something years. But yeah, no, it just didn't appear on my radar at all.
Well, it's odd, isn't it? I have a similar kind of relationship with Tokyo in a way. Like the longer you take stuff for granted, don't you? And when you first arrive in the capital, you're all plugged in and you know what all the gigs are and everything. And then after a while, there's always something on. And then you end up living in one of the great cultural hubs and just stay indoors. Sort of weird things that happens, right?
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, well, more to the point. The other day when we were talking about another cinema club that we used to kick around in, the Gothic Film Society.
Right.
And it took you to tell me what was on the Gothic Film Society to work out what I was actually missing.
Right.
Which I work within walking distance of. So yeah, that goes to show how much of a numpty you can be.
Yeah.
Well, we have had a few years of COVID as well that's gotten in the way of some of this stuff. So I find myself finally now going out on the case.
I think this was a pre-COVID phenomenon. I think it's something that just naturally happened. I mean, you would know because you live in the middle of fucking nowhere. So
this is true.
Any cultural event that comes near you, which isn't often, you go though, right? You're starving.
This is true.
So, yeah. I do apologise to the residents of Prince Edward Island.
Prince Edward Island, who are bereft of all culture.
And have tentacles growing from their faces as well.
But yeah, I mean, you're right though. I think even in my last 2 or 3 years in Tokyo, I was definitely not getting out and seeing stuff the way I had been when we first got there.
Right.
In fact, it took you basically, badgering me for a year to even go out for a drink. I was that ensconced in my rabbit hutch. Anyway,
so yes,
this book.
So this book I actually started reading a little while ago, and then got about halfway through and felt I would really like to talk to someone about this because I'm enjoying it so much, and I would like to just continue the discourse. So then I thought about, oh well, we'll do it on Literary Feck, and then yeah, as I said, and then I thought, oh, Darren should probably be in on this because we're all of the exact demographic to get a lot out of this, I think. So yeah, the flip side.
I think all of us were huge fans of Sooty, I think, right?
I used to like a bit of Sooty.
Yeah,
I did too.
My favourite bit of Sooty is, and they didn't do this often, is when, because obviously Sooty's a glove puppet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My world has just come crumbling down.
Nonetheless, he is a glove puppet. And obviously glove puppets generally don't have legs. But sometimes they would get some footage of Sooty or Sweep or Sue walking around like a town centre or something. And it would be two fingers.
Yeah.
The puppeteer's two little fingers in furry little sheaths.
Leggings.
Yeah. And I used to like that when they did that.
There's something a little bit sexy about Sue, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think she was kind of husky, wasn't she? I think.
Yeah.
The voice.
I always sensed there was a love triangle.
Yes, I kind of got that feeling as well.
Yeah, I think both Sooty and Sweep were vying for her attention, and who knows? Yeah,
maybe Matthew.
Maybe Harry.
One drunken evening, we might have had hand puppet finger cuffs going on behind the scenes.
So as you said, we're the right demographic for this book.
So flip side of British film, I guess that deserves a bit more of an explanation. So basically, what Fowler and Pratt have done is they've kind of trawled the I don't know what you'd call it, the underbelly, but some of it's, oddly enough, it's not. Some of it is very much stuff that would have been mainstream, actually, but just kind of forgotten or you know. But basically, trawl the forgotten kind of byways of British film and TV culture, and a proper deep, like, I think there's different strata, right? So this is not the book, for example, if you've just started getting into, like, I don't know, the old Ghost Stories for Christmas, Emma James adaptations, and you've just discovered the world of telefantasy and old Doctor Who episodes and obscure Jerry Anderson things, or I don't know what else, Play for Today's, and that kind of stuff that has already acquired a bit of a Penda's Fen, stuff like that. Yeah, this isn't your introduction to that. You need another book or another series of books. This is even deeper, right? This is proper. Like, I think
deeper and broader too.
Yes, the amount of stuff in here that I never heard of. I actually surprised.
Yeah, that was exciting.
I've been around the block a few times now, but some stuff really jumped out at, what the fuck? How have I never come across this before?
Yeah. I mean, case in point, you're talking about Doctor Who episodes. You might pick this up, and it's got this really lurid cover, right? That's actually, I think, a bit misleading, because that's not really what's in the book, is it?
No.
Yes. What's in the book is much more interesting than that. But you might pick this up and talking about Doctor Who, and talking about how, it's not the obvious stuff. You might, if there's a Doctor Who episode in here, you might think, oh well, it's that Sean Pertwee one with the demons, but it's not. It's a Colin Baker one.
Yes, yeah.
With, from the mid-80s when Doctor Who was really strange and gory.
Yes. Yes. And ugly. It was ugly.
Yeah. So yeah, no, so it's for that reason it's really interesting, and yeah, I mean, to Clive's point, again, it's, you know, the amount of stuff that's in there, you know, like the government information films and the, oh no, it's like police training videos and stuff. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounded fascinating to me.
But-
And like, and the drug ones as well, the ones that were basically just sell antidepressants and stuff to
Yeah.
people with schizophrenia and things like that. Like those sound like must sees.
Well, what's also interesting as well, I think about it, is if you're doing this kind of thing as well, you can also fall into the trap of you know, being overly reverential with the specs on for things that aren't actually that interesting. Because sometimes what happens when you have this kind of very specific fandom, and you've seen all the Penders Fen and the Children of the Stones and all that stuff, and then you really start scraping the bottom of the barrel, and you start digging, and you think, well, there's a reason people don't talk about this stuff, because it's not worth talking about. But I think it, again, without having seen some of the stuff, so I'm taking it on faith that some of the stuff here is as interesting as they make it sound. It sounds as if they've really cherry-picked some gems rather than just gone for something just because it's, you know.
Yes, but they also they won't, like, they deliberately won't big things up either if they're like, there's the whole section on Under the Doctor, the Barry Evans, like, and there's it's right there. This film is shit. They tell you absolutely unequivocally, it is not funny, it is not sexy, it is a painful trudge, but it's emblematic of a moment in time.
Of course, it's not funny and it's not sexy. It's a British comedy of the 70s.
Yeah. But it sounds particularly rough compared even to some of the stuff that we have.
Yeah, well, I've seen some of the Barry Evans Adventures films, and it seems even sub them, right? So now, of course, that immediately means I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I was severely tempted with the Barry Evans on there as well.
But to be honest, the only bad thing about this book was I would have liked a bit. It's a shame we didn't get it on it even soon. I would have liked a week or two to actually watch some of the stuff that's in it. So there's going to be a lot of stuff here where I still haven't seen it, but it just sounds.
Yes. Though I wonder if because a lot of this stuff would fit the purview of another show that you and I do, Clive, if some of this might not show up in Film Crack later on.
Right. So there's go ahead, Daz.
I did a sort of cursory search of a few things, just a few things that I was interested in. Like I tried to, because it was a 15-minute short. I thought, oh, I know, I bet you I'll be able to find that Os or Bios or whatever it's called.
Oh yes,
on YouTube, on Vimeo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, nowhere to be found.
Right.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go to the BFI and like speak out a reel to reel. Yeah,
well, this is my suspicion with a lot of it. And I actually put some feelers out a couple of weeks ago as well for that. What's it called? It's called the Wrong Side of the Tracks or something. What's that documentary? The one with there's a documentary TV show with nudists, and then there's a witchcraft one as well.
Yes.
Oh yes.
What's it called?
Hang on. This will be blistering. Out of Step.
That's the one.
Nudism and Witchcraft from 1957.
Yeah, they don't seem to be anywhere either, or at least as far as sort of streaming stuff you can actually stream online. You know.
Yeah, well, there was, if I remember correctly, there's been a few like BFI flipside releases of specific things, but I'm wondering if I'm making this up, but I seem to remember, wasn't there a while ago, wasn't something, there was like it was just a flipside or best of flipside or something, BFI DVD, and it was like odds and ends and stuff.
Yeah, I had a look at that. I did go shopping for that. I didn't buy it, but I had a look. But yeah, there's I think there are two compilations of this sort of thing.
Yes.
But hardly anything from the book is in the Blu-rays.
Right. Yeah, I get the feeling the book's like it's an extension of that season. It's even deeper kind of cuts. which I suppose is why it exists in this form, maybe, as opposed to putting out a DVD or putting out, it's like, oh, we can't actually give you this, but at least we can tell you about some of this stuff. But yeah, so
I had a friend, I should say, just like this is an example of this kind of thing. I had a friend who was a huge fan of Frederick Wiseman and traveled all over the US, would base holidays around going to specific libraries, specific university libraries that had copies of specific Wiseman films because they were so hard to come by. And he would go and he would smuggle like a second VCR in his suitcase, go into a private, viewing booth and run duplicates for himself. And then I would get second or third or fourth generation duplicates. But he was basically amassing an entire collection, but it all had to be done that way because there wasn't like a single place. There's no place to find that stuff. And where else are you going to find a 27-hour long documentary, cinema verite about God knows what? Like,
no, it's interesting because now some of that stuff has, for example, the Wiseman stuff has a little bit more, well, a lot more visibility than it once did. And here's hoping maybe that'll happen to some of the stuff here, right? So we have 8 chapters. Tunnel of Love, Out of Towners, Kids Stuff, True Stories, The War Room, Music and Movement, Fantastic Fiction, and Tales of Terror. And I think it's too dense, really. We're not going to be able to talk about everything. So I think what I might do is I've got a little list here, and I might just I'll just read out, and then at any point if something jumps out and you have something to say about it, just stop me. So in the Tunnel of Love section, for instance, I mean, the thing about this book as well, it has these main topics of discussion. All the chapters are anchored in conversations about specific examples, specific films, specific TV episodes. But then what I also like, I mean, a lot of, as you can see, I've got a lot of dog ears here, is the stuff that they just mention in passing. Well, one that I have seen, I was wondering if either of you had seen this, because it's a fantastic film, and this isn't one of the main things, it's just something they mention in passing. Have you ever seen that like children's public information film called The Finishing Line? It's from 1977, I think. John Chris. It's very short, but it's about like railway safety.
Oh, it's the train one. I might, you know what? Maybe I did.
It's fucking great because the way they do it is it's done like a school sports day documentary, but instead of like the sack race or egg and spoon or something, the race is like how fast can you run in front of trains, and there's like all these kids in like stretchers and things. It's really it's really it's a great kind of weird mix of public information meets like some kind of gory horror film, or it's worth it. I think it's on YouTube. You can play it.
All that stuff has such a weird dystopian vibe. Like all of that 70s public information stuff. It's just like it's almost comes from another world now. When you look at it, you're like, yeah.
Well, the other famous one, isn't it, is a public information film. I think it was even like a commercial almost. You'd see that one, Dark Water, is it called, with Donald
Deep Water, I think it's called, is it? With the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, and Donald Pleasence is like the voice of that. So if any of this is ringing a bell for you at all, this is the book for you.
This is your place to go.
Because before we mention any specifics, then, I mean, did you both enjoy this as much as I did? Because I really enjoyed reading this book all the way through. I had a great time with it.
Yeah, the number of times I recognized myself and like different eras of myself. I was like, oh shit, I was really interested in that at that point in my life. Like when they get to war games, I remember thinking I had wanted to see it back when I was like a wild-eyed young anarchist, and I couldn't find a copy. I'd seen threads that was easier to find, but at that point, war games was still kind of weirdly, the BBC were kind of just like, and then the Doctor Who shit, and then I mean, it was just like almost every chapter had something where I was like excited or interested or
You as
Yeah,
well?
I feel the same. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, fascinating. And I like it's broken down into nice little nuggets. So, you find that because there's how many short films or films are there on this? There's got to be what 35 films
Mhm.
discussed in reasonable detail.
Mm.
But the chapters are broken down small enough so that if you find yourself reading about something that's not really a bag, you're quickly through it and on to the
Yeah.
next one, which
Right.
will definitely interest you.
Yes, and even peppered in that stuff you might not be interested in is stuff that
Yeah,
allusion
you can bounce.
different stuff
Yeah,
you are interested in. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I really like the fact that obviously, Fowler and Pratt are, their day jobs are kind of archivists. They seem to, as far if I read it correctly, but they seem to work for the BFI. That's their day job,
Mhm.
and their day job is going through the archives at the BFI.
Mm.
But it's obvious that their frames of reference, in terms of cinema,
Mm.
are our frames of reference. So they're
Right.
obviously kind of had a similar experience in cinema as us, trawling local video shops for video nasties,
Mhm.
in the 90s. And there'll be a comparison to Lucio Fulci somewhere,
Yes, yeah.
out
But at the
of
same
the
time, they're talking
blue.
about Maya Deren, 1950s
Yeah,
experimental, short filmmaker. Yeah. Like I was impressed by the breadth of their
mm,
knowledge, right? And
yeah,
that, like anyone who's saying, they're not making that artificial distinction between high and low art, and it's
mm,
that it's art.
yeah.
It's all art.
Yeah. So in the Title of Love section, you've got
Patrick McGee.
well, before they go, Mystery of Marriage from 1932 by Mary Field, which seems to be some sort of a film that uses animal footage to tell the story of
Oh
human.
yes, the Birds of the Bees.
Yeah, this sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, Patrick McGee, Patrick McGowan, you mean? And
Sorry, Patrick McGoon, not Patrick McGee, who's also great.
Danger Man. There's a mention of it.
Yeah,
And
I've never seen any of that. I've never seen any of Danger Man.
Well, the thing with Danger Man is I've only seen, obviously, The Prisoner. I've seen all of.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a fucking masterpiece. But
Mhm.
but Danger Man is a lot more conventional than that. And unfortunately, I think with a lot of television, you're not going to get anything out of it. It's not just like, say, for instance, now there's a Netflix series which is, I don't know, 10 episodes long. It's not just that you have to invest the time to watch I think with older, more episodic television, even if someone were to cherry pick for you like the best episodes, I often find they don't really work out of context. I mean, the only way to really appreciate a series, and unfortunately, because who has the time to do it, is that you've actually watched the whole. I mean,
The whole thing.
every
Yeah.
single episode. But for instance, when it was originally broadcast, you watched, that thing, regardless of what it would be, Danger Man or Bonanza or whatever. You watched it week by week, and got to know the world, and then you appreciated the really good episodes of it, right? And unfortunately, I don't think there's another way around it. So I think Danger Man there probably are interesting aspects of the, and especially the interesting Patrick McGowan and the formation of the prisoner, but I think unfortunately you're probably gonna have to watch all of Danger Man to get it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Or a series, probably, or the first season or the second,
Yeah, but you know what I mean? You have to steep yourself.
You need to immerse yourself.
Yeah.
Which,
that's very time consuming. I mean, when I was a teenager, I steeped myself in all sorts of shit I shouldn't, like Coronation Street for a while and Neighbours and countless.
Well, that's because we had time and nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the difference. We had loads of time and there was nothing, there were 5 channels if you were lucky.
Right.
And you watched what was on the telly.
It's turning into the 4 Yorkshiremen sketch.
It is. Luxury.
He grew up in a paper bag in a septic tank.
enough of that.
Yes.
Yeah. What else? What else did we?
Yeah. So
have
we
then?
don't obviously don't have heads in, but no, I just thought because he went straight there, I thought Nick was going to have something to say about Patrick McGowan.
Nope.
Right.
No.
It was-
No.
the-
Other than
the
that, I
point-
didn't remember that he was in Scanners until I read this book, for some reason. Although it's been a fuck of a long time since I've seen Scanners, so.
I mean, the biographical info was quite good. Patrick.
Oh no,
McGowan's-
it's fascinating. Yeah, he's a
Yeah, it's
he's
not
a,
someone
like
I've
he's a
looked
very-
into, but
Very
yeah, it
tense,
was-
very tense man, apparently.
yes.
Yeah.
Who my brother-in-law once referred to. I always thought this was quite funny and a very childish. It still makes me laugh. He used to refer to Patrick McGowan as Twatrick McPooface.
He missed the trick there. He could have called him Twatrick McPoohand. That would have gone
Oh
better.
yeah, that would have worked. Yeah.
Patrick
And
McPoohand.
then sold it to Viz.
Exactly.
I'm missing the reference to the poo hand.
Well, Goohan
Magoohan.
Goohan is a better rhyme.
Poohand is a better rhyme.
Ah, but I like poo face.
Yeah.
At least you wouldn't call you fucking poo hand.
Well, you would if you don't wipe properly.
It's more realistic, Nick.
Yeah.
Yes. So so we're on to
And then we Dream A40, which
Yes,
which
which
that
is,
was just, I'd never heard of this before, and
Oh.
or the director Lloyd Record from Jamaica, which 65 is early for a Jamaican director to be making a pro-gay film. Everything
Yeah.
about this was like, what?
yeah,
What?
yeah. He's the guy who went on to make Pressure, right?
Yeah.
And then so oddly enough, the one thing that I think is very deserving of talking a lot about, but I'm not going to because Darren can chip in a little bit if he likes. But the thing is, this has actually been requested by our mate Gav. So in maybe the next other show that we do on Film Crack, we're actually doing Secrets of Sex, Nick.
Oh, okay.
On a double bill with Horror Hospital.
Hey.
There we go.
Perfect.
So I'm not going to say too much about Secrets of Sex,
Okay.
even though it is, it's a bonkers, fascinating. Have you ever,
I've never seen it, but that
Yeah.
picture definitely enthuses me about seeing it.
Yes, it's very Pan Book of Horror Stories cover, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Secrets of Sex, Darren?
No, I haven't.
You should probably see Secrets. I think you would
Yeah.
enjoy it a great deal.
Yeah, no, I will give. There's so much in this book that is just marked off. Is
Yeah,
marked.
yeah.
To watch.
Yeah.
To find.
And I've just written down like so next All the Right Noises. I don't even remember what the fuck that is. Is that that's the one with Tom Bell and a very young
Yeah. It's an affair with like a teenage girl kind of
Oh yeah.
thing.
And,
Looks kind of like
The of its time one.
yes.
yeah, very much looks like
Yeah.
it's
I think this is the one they mention as well. Speaking of its time, the other of its time one that I've always been a big fan of this era is Twinkie, which I think we might have mentioned elsewhere. Twinkie is the one, which is this is going to blow your mind if you've never heard of it before. This is the one where Susan George,
Mhm.
as a young schoolgirl, shacks up with middle-aged, drumroll, Charles Bronson in 1969.
I'm interested. Oh, that was young Charles Bronson.
No, already
Well,
old, craggy face.
Yeah. I don't think he ever
Charles
was.
Bronson,
I don't think he was ever young.
who introduces
Um,
himself, to Susan George's parents, and yes, I'm Twinkie's new middle-aged boyfriend.
Wow.
Twinkie is fascinating.
Okay.
And well, you've got a very young Susan George in a school uniform as well for the whole thing. So it's just on that level, it's prurient viewing. But then you throw in the Charles Bronson thing, and I believe the theme tune goes something like "Twinkie, Twinkie, dumb and stupid like a schoolgirl should be," or something like that. It's and distractingly, Darren's
Yep.
Yeah.
Video
What the
is
hell's
being
going on?
strange. This
Are
is
you
like
seeing what I'm seeing?
psychedelic.
Yes, yeah. It's terrifying.
Yes.
It's a shitty Doctor Who episode from like 1982.
Yeah, my
Nigel
camera was
Neal
playing.
has infected the discussion.
It's the, yeah. Oh, there we are.
there we go.
It's the stone tape. I had to adjust the stone tape.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yes, yeah. That's perfect for this book. Wow.
Yeah, so all the right noises. I don't know if it's as entertaining as Twinkie, but it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and I've got a soft spot for a lot of that stuff because I went through a weird phase in my, again, that's it, like every pocket of this book it would be like, oh yeah, I remember reading all of the Angry Young Men at one point when I was like 18 or 19. I went through like Constable and Wayne and Osborne and particularly Silito, who I like the most, Loneliest of the Long Distance Runner, and Saturday Night Sunday Morning, and then all of those kind of grubby looking films, Lindsay Anderson stuff, kind of that period. I still love Tom Courtenay. I'll still watch that guy in anything. Although he doesn't look anything like, whenever I see him now, I cannot back map the Tom Courtenay of the 60s onto the Tom Courtenay of now. They're like, they might as well be two different people, but they're both great actors.
He's very good in recently. There's that miniseries, The North Water, which I think you might enjoy.
Okay.
Tom Courtenay is just,
we recently saw him in that balloonist movie where he was by far the best thing in it. Like,
he is one of the,
ahead of what's his face from the Harry Potter films, Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah, he just comes on and he's just at that point in his. It seems effortless, right? He just comes on, and just blows everyone else off screen, right? So that, again, and to be honest, that's an example as well of all the right noises. For example, is something that isn't necessarily on the high end of things that I definitely need to check out in this book. It's more towards a kind of drama about May to December, possibly thing. But even stuff towards the end, bottom of the scale, sounds fascinating to me. Just as a kind of, that's not necessarily one that I'm going to rush out and see straight away. But it's still, again, the thing with a book like this as well is, I think, even if some of the stuff you tracked down and it was disappointing and it didn't live up to the writing, the thing is they've still made you fascinated for that 5-10 minutes or whatever that you're in the bath reading about it. So that one in it's it works as creative writing, as well as reportage. Yes, and then Barry Evans.
Yes. It's just always it fascinates me that period of time when so many, like John Pertwee is in one of the Adventures movies, right? In a scene where, like, Adventures of a Private Investigator, I think it is. Like he's just out of doing his run as the Doctor, like a few months, and he's already like doing sex comedies. It was like everyone was like, oh, whatever pays the bills, that's what people are willing to get their bums and seats for. That's what we're gonna do.
Speaking of Susan George,
there we are.
Die Screaming Marianne.
Yeah.
Piss off, Judge.
Judgy fudgy.
me and Darren had the pleasure of seeing Die Screaming Marianne on a big screen.
Oh, nice.
They showed it at the Eurofest when Pete Walker was a guest, right?
Okay, nice.
And Frightmare as well, I think they showed, didn't they? Frightmare.
Was it Frightmare?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was a good session that was. But yeah. Piss off, Judge.
Piss off, Judge.
Judgy fudgy.
I still say piss off, Judge to people to this day.
I'm fascinated by like just the way they break down just how grim that Doctor film is. Like that, there's that whole segment where the guy's had his dick shot off in the war or whatever. Like anything to block you from being aroused or excited or feel good. Like every opportunity to like deny you pleasure at this sex comedy film is employed. That's like it's brilliant.
Yeah.
As so many of those films were, you know,
And of course,
at denying you what you wanted.
Darren will be excited because his favourite, Denham Elliott, is in either Percy or Percy's Progress, or both, if I remember.
Percy, I think it's the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we all know how much Darren likes Denham Elliott.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, who doesn't?
See, I know we had a thing about Denham Elliott.
You can't remember what,
But I actually can't remember what the thing was of Denham
Elliott. He's the thing you can't take your eyes off into Devil a Daughter. There's just no way.
According to you,
no way to look away.
You big fibber.
I like him. He's a fascinating man.
Not that much, you don't. Not to make snow appear on the videotape, you don't. Right.
That videotape is from when I was 15.
Yes, fair enough. My copy as well, actually.
Yes.
I rented Tessa the D'Urbervilles, like, just to look at Natasha Kinski. That's I had a.
Yeah.
You must have been disappointed because she's like head.
I was
going like.
Yeah, there wasn't much to get going with there. No.
Actually, I don't
Good
think
adaptation though.
I don't think I've ever seen. I seem to remember you thinking Tess was a very good film back in the day, Darren, when you were in your pants. I've never actually seen it.
I thought it was a very good. I think it's the most Thomas Hardy film of any of the Thomas Hardy adaptations that I've seen, anyway. Very, very Thomas Hardy. It's very faithful.
Right.
The
so depressing as shit.
Yeah, it's just bleak as fuck. Yeah.
Mayor Casterbridge. That's a real fun time.
Yeah.
And then I can't. What was this one about? This next one,
Felix. Yeah, I don't.
I think that's like the kind of second wave feminism, slightly sci-fi one, isn't it? That's
Cozy Van Tutti's in it, right?
Oh yes. From Robin Gristle, right?
Yeah, and it's also this made by London Filmmakers Cooperative, right? It's kind of an interesting.
So it's a bit like an English Lizzie Borden thing. I've always liked Working Girls. That's a film that I think is one of the only things I've ever seen that actively problematizes maleness to such a degree that by the time it was finished, I was like, oh, Jesus, I need to go to apologize to every woman I meet. Which is it's a impressive feat to make male sexuality seem so strange and fucked up. And it's just done by piling scene upon scene of like fetishistic weirdness, and these women just being like, all right, like,
right.
I will pretend that you're a blind man, and it's that movie's amazing.
Yeah, never seen it.
And
so it's on the list, but as you know, the list is long.
It's long, yes,
long, and now it's even longer thanks to this fucking book. Thanks, Fowler and Pratt. So I think we're probably
I actually like.
This is maybe the chapter all of us enjoyed. Is one of our favorite chapters, I think. Out of
absolutely.
Yeah.
All the class stuff, all the country versus city stuff. That's all.
Yeah.
After you get through some stuff about Norman Wisdom,
exactly.
Even that is interesting. They've made Norman Wisdom interesting.
I wanted to see Off very much, and apparently, Darren, you said it's not easily.
I couldn't find it on like Vimeo or any sites that might sort of.
I'll scour the few places that sometimes have these things, but who knows, right?
Yeah, unlikely. I would have thought. I'm particularly interested in the that Out of Step one as well with Gerald Gardner. That's of great interest to me.
Well, I'll take a look.
The Osos We Os one, I think, is particularly so. This is basically a look at some Cornish, I suppose you'd call it, folk music and dancing, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
like a folk tradition, isn't it?
But it's a survival of like a truly old, it's proper pagan, I believe, going way back.
It's Alan Lomax as well, isn't it? So almost anything that involves Alan Lomax or what his old man was up to before him, John Lomax as well. Anything the Lomaxes were interested into is usually catnip for me. And it's you know, if you look at all the things that they recorded, you know, across their careers, I mean, you could lose yourself in. It's a whole world. There's quite a good documentary I watched not that long ago, specifically about Alan Lomax, called "The Lomax the Song Hunter." It's a documentary out of the Netherlands. It's from 2004. It's quite a good place to start if you're interested in finding out more about Alan Lomax. And Shirley Collins is interviewed in it, for example. She talks about Alan Lomax. And but yeah, this Os Os We Os, yeah, I would very much like to see this.
Yeah.
It's
like a found footage Wicker Man or something, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the idea of these kind of just generally slightly sullen Cornish folks who are, you know, okay maybe with these people bringing their cameras in and filming the event, but definitely a distance.
Have you, Darren? Have you been? I'm assuming it must be playing around about now or soon. Have you been to see Ennis Men?
No, not yet. No. Yeah, I think it is just coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very keen to see that Cornish kind of filmic, Mark Jenkins. You're looking puzzled, Nick, but I think Ennis Men is probably something that would interest you as well. So yeah.
Okay.
And then anyway, if that's a bit too serious for you, if that's a bit too highfalutin, we can relax with Cardew the Cad Robinson.
Oh, I've got to get me into some Cardew the Cad. Look at him.
St. Fanny's.
He's meant to be a fucking schoolboy in that picture.
Yes, yeah, with the mustache.
Look at him.
With a little cap.
Yeah, even had his own comic strip in Radio Fun magazine.
I've got to see that. I have to see that.
I also love that, like, he ends up with it's something later on where he's getting £5 a day. You know, like just the pittance that British actors were paid. You know, as you know, again, the Shaw brothers had their barracks, as did the Carry On films, right? Like that, it was just, yeah. I mean, fucking actors today have no idea. They would get into that Yorkshireman's territory again, but like really, they have no idea what a shit job it actually was. I think for many years.
Oh, luxury! I had to go 5. No, I stuck with that.
What the fuck was that?
I'm not sure.
I was trying to do something. And then
that was a Yorkshire man via what's his face?
Kenneth Williams.
That's
like a fucking
Williams, yeah.
Yorkshire Kenneth Williams homunculus.
Well, that's what I was going for. It was more successful.
You put it across.
It was more successful.
£5 a day.
Yeah. I was like half a second into that, correcting it. Anyway, so next, this is something actually that I think Darren might actually be able to speak to a lot more than me, because I haven't seen this, but it's been on my list for a while. Robin Redbreast.
Yeah, pretty good.
There we go.
Have you seen it?
No, remind me again.
So Robin Redbreast.
We're getting to the magic-y stuff here, right?
No, not quite. No, well,
not
yes,
quite.
It's a lot of people class Robin Redbreast is always spoken about in these conversations that everyone's having now about folk horror.
Okay, right.
It's not. I don't think it's a folk horror film.
Okay.
At all. But yeah, it's very kind of, you know, towny woman moves into small village.
Right.
Hooks up with, you know, a navvy, you know, a local navvy. Culture clash, but then it's kind of it turns into something a bit nastier and a bit more insidious. Okay. So, you know, it becomes the culture not absorbing her but eating her, you know, so devouring it. So it's not as good as everyone says it is, but it's very, very interesting, very entertaining.
And
short
loosely based on some kind of real life incident as well, isn't it?
film.
Robin
Yeah.
Redford. Some sort of murder case that happened somewhere or other in the middle of nowhere.
And I learned what a sherd is as well from reading this, which was great.
It's what you put on under your jumper, isn't it?
Yes, I did.
Good one.
That's
I just realized if you say jumper, it does you accidentally do sound a bit Cornish, is that?
Yes, I do.
Just put on my jumper.
Yeah. I think Robin Redbreast is Norfolk, though, to be fair, isn't it?
Okay.
I don't know, I haven't seen it.
I think
right.
it's like the Fens or something.
But so my connection with Robin Redbreast is I have yet to see Robin Redbreast, but oddly enough, just recently I watched there's a play for today from 1977 called A Photograph, which plays along similar lines of towny outsiders versus locals, kind of folk horror-y, potential localized witchcraft kind of thing. It's one of those. It's actually I quite enjoyed watching it. It's about this cultural commentator. He's like the type of guy he's on Radio 3 talking about the politics of H.G. Wells' Time Machine and stuff like that. And someone sends him he gets this photo in the post of a caravan with like two girls sitting in front of it. And he has no idea who these people are, where the caravan is. And they keep sending these photographs. And his wife gets obsessed, trying to track down where this photograph was taken and who the girls in the photograph are. And it's quite interesting. But by the time it reaches its conclusion, it's like it crosses that line into that's a little bit silly, because everything else is so grounded. Like it suddenly goes into some kind of Wicker, like it works in the Wicker Man, because as soon as you get to Summer's Isle, you're in a fucking bonkers land, where Christopher Lee dances with his leather elbow pads, and so
that was not the dancing that I was that immediately sprung to my mind when I thought about that.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Denim LA the whole time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Denim's in that one.
Whenever I'm in danger of having unpure thoughts, I just
bangs the wall.
Denim LA. There we
go. But actually, I have a quick question before, in case we are going to move on from this topic of town versus country and insiders versus outsiders. All three of us are from relatively rural, small towns, right? And so I'm wondering, so my parents were what's called Dublin Jackeens. So basically Dubliners who were living outside of Dublin, right? And generally speaking, Dubliners in the rest of Ireland don't have a very great reputation. In the same way that I suppose maybe Londoners are seen as suspicious to folks elsewhere. And part of that is because Dublin was basically where the Anglo-Irish were. It was basically like where the rest of Ireland was kind of ruled from for many years. So anyway, so we moved down to Wicklow, and although I was there from the age of 1, I don't think I would have ever been considered a townie by the townspeople. And my parents certainly were on the outside. They had friends and stuff, but for the true townies, and the fucking accent was outrageous in Wicklow as well. It was this really whiny, like, how are you? What are you doing there? What are you doing there?
I'm not touching it. It's doing it on its own. I'll try and switch it around, actually.
I'm enjoying this.
I'm expecting fucking Max Headroom to appear now, and somebody starts spanking me.
Yeah. Right, I'm gonna. Oh,
there we go. You're back again.
But what I'm actually gonna do. Sorry to disrupt the show. I'm gonna crawl under the desk. I'm going to disconnect the camera and reconnect another camera.
All right.
I will be here, but I will not be visible.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah. So
the reason I mentioned the photograph though is so that there's a character played by Frida Bamford and she seems to actually be more or less the same character she plays in Robin Redbreast. So this Play for Today, A Photograph is kind of a sequel or a follow-up.
Okay.
And then apparently there's a third, making it a kind of trilogy. So Frida Bamford played, apparently, I've not seen it, more or less the same character again in Dark Secrets, which was an episode of ITV's Saturday Night Thriller from 1981. So apparently there's a trilogy of this character.
Okay. She carved out a little niche for herself doing what, city woman in the countryside.
No, she would be the local.
Oh, she was the local.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
so yeah, I was just wondering yourself, if you have any memories of that whole feeling of like who was on the ins and who was on the outs, who was town people, who wasn't town people from your own childhood. No. Okay, all right then. Let's move along.
Yeah, I actually grew up in the 20th century, so a lot less.
I see. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So
you spent less time up chimneys. And,
right. Yeah. So now we can't move on to secret rights because Darren will have a lot to say about secret rights, I think. Oh, here he is.
There we go. At least the top of his head. Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
Your missus just had made a cameo appearance in our...
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be overjoyed.
Yeah, I didn't think of that when I disconnected the camera, did I? Actually, this is a better camera. It's better quality camera. Eh?
Should I pixelate it?
Which bit?
When your missus turns up.
Yeah, when you got your dick out before.
Which you want to be... Which you want to be associated with this rambling nonsense?
I want to be seen.
Okay. All right. So, secret rights.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So first of all, Notting Hill is a place where apparently, because my only context for this is shitty romantic comedy films of the 2000s. So this originally was a hotbed of witchy activity.
I think the short answer is
where...
no.
No. That's so it's brief potted history.
Yep.
If you are into the modern initiatory Wicca movement, then there are two strands. There's Alexandrian Wicca and there's the Gardnerian Wicca. And Gerald Gardner invented the Gardnerian Wicca, and Alexander's took Gardnerian Wicca and turned it into something slightly different, which became Alexandrian Wicca.
Mm-hmm.
Although Alexander's originates from sort of Manchester, North Wales area, and started doing his stuff up there. His kind of the big influx of Wicca, of Wiccan initiates, and the majority of stuff, certainly on film and in print, that he was doing from there. So it was quite the sort of counterculture hotbed of Wicca. So yeah, Notting Hill is something gardens, isn't it? Something gardens. Anyway, but yes, no. So it's it's of interest to me because I happen to be an Alexandrian Wiccan initiate.
But if you're not interested in it, as to quote Alexander's, you'd say, "That is a load of rubbish," as he says at the beginning of Secret Rites. There's an opening.
I love that.
Where it's odd. I suppose what they're trying to do is it's supposed to be like a scene from like a Hammer film or an Amicus or something of some kind of devilish orgy, like from Devil Rides Out with Denham Elliott. He's
coming up a lot
with a crucifix, and but it's odd because it's one of those, like when you try and parody like a scene, like a cliched scene. But the thing is, whatever they're doing in that first scene doesn't
look like
anything in any horror film I've ever seen.
That is not parody, because it starts off. So hang on, have either of you seen Secret Rites?
I've seen.
I haven't.
Yeah,
you haven't.
Which is why I'm talking about it.
Not yet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so
okay.
So there's this scene with this like really shit model castle, isn't there? Like Dracula's castle, and then Alexander's, the man himself, is basically raping some raping some nubile young ladies that he's about to sacrifice. And then in comes this like hero character with a big crucifix.
Super Jesus, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's just like, what is this? It doesn't resemble anything else. It doesn't work. Yeah, and then Alexander just comes on screen and goes, "That is a load of rubbish," and then it goes on to explain why. Yeah, this and so me and Darren have talked a little bit about Secret Rights off air before, but it's kind of an because it's only 45 minutes long, made by Stanley Long, right? But and sorry, Derek Ford, I meant, and who we talked.
Yeah, I was going to say this is Diversions.
Derek Ford, yes.
You've gone again on us.
Well, I'm using a different camera now. What the fuck is going on?
The powers that be don't want this to go out. I'm guessing.
Wow.
It's the ghost of Denham Elliott. He's had enough of you knocking one out about him.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It's getting better every time.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. Apologies.
So what's interesting about...
We're gonna have one of those warnings at the beginning of this about like inducing seizures. Like if you're on certain medications, please don't watch this episode.
It's 4 days to Halloween, Halloween. It's 4 days. But it's an interesting mix because it does have, on the one hand, from what I instinctively assumed would be, and then I checked in with Darren, and it did turn out to be relatively authentic. For instance, some coven rituals, and there's a hand fasting as well, isn't there? And that stuff is pretty on the money. And then all of a sudden, there's this weird Egypt themed bollocks at the end.
That
guy with the omnibus head.
Yeah, that color picture inside of the front is great.
Yeah,
that piques my curiosity.
And surprisingly, good. They look. I'm guessing they're models as coven members. All of a sudden,
well, yeah,
actively giggling as well every now and again. It's an odd. Obviously, at some point, Alexander's was talked into by Derek Ford to someone. He was like, look, Alex, this is all very good and authentic and everything, but let's put something in just
for the dads.
But from what I read, about Alexander's in general, he had a bit of that dichotomy going on anyway, right? Like he was very much the face of modern witchcraft in terms of, so he would be the guy on telly talking about it. So he did, even in himself, without the help of Derek Ford or anyone else, he did have that huckster element, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. He was, he was drumming up just as much business himself. He was actively quoting the press, quoting the telly. He was even he even used to do a stage show with like this prog rock band called Black Widow.
Oh yeah, that really. Yeah, I made a note of that right away. I was like, I'd like to hear that.
That sounds very stunt rock. Like they were.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. You can get the albums, but I don't think there's any footage. I don't think any footage exists of that, which is a massive shame. Yeah. So Alexander's was kicking around doing all sorts for publicity. So I don't think he
also was shilling for Guinness as well, right? Because he said you could scry the future with a pint.
Yeah. Not true. True story. Yeah, I know someone who had his pint scried by Alex.
That's awesome.
Thing he did.
As Brendan Behan once came up with, apparently, was that famous story about Guinness tried to get him to do some kind of advertising, and they sent him like crates and crates and crates of Guinness, and apparently Brendan Behan, just after drinking all their booze, came back with, "Guinness makes you drunk."
Nice.
Yeah.
We had seen, as we watched Diversions not that long ago, or whatever, Night Train has whatever the other name it has. Because obviously he was a straight up pornographer. So it's a great combination. I'm really curious to watch this.
Rumors that there might have been
yes, a hardcore version.
hardcore version of Secret Rights. Which I
Yeah,
was
the
very
Swedish
interested in.
release.
Yeah.
Yes. Loads of full frontal denim, Elliot, in that.
Yeah, all your eyeballs can take.
Yeah.
Also worth mentioning that Fowler and Pratt also contribute the commentary track to the flipside release of Secret Rights.
Oh,
with
right.
What's the other film? Legend of Witches.
Legend of the Witches.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I do actually own that. I haven't listened to the commentary, but yeah,
Commentary is very interesting. They talk a lot about Derek Ford and yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, if that was getting a little bit too steamy for you, well, sorry, we did skip over the cricketing film, Playing Away.
Playing Away, yes, with apparently the butler from what the hell's the show? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in it.
Fresh Prince.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that jumped out at me about that.
Playing Away, that's it.
Time to get into some kids stuff here, as in these stone creatures.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. That's. I vaguely remember that, like in a haunting kind of like. I feel like that. I had nightmares possibly after seeing that.
Speaking of nightmare, if you will.
Hartley hair.
What is with that thing?
Have you seen? Did you ever see the show?
I vaguely remember. He looks like what happens to a rabbit, like between catching myxomatosis and death.
Yes.
It's even worse. It's even worse in live action though. That doesn't even do the moth-eaten, scabrous visage of Hartley hair justice.
Not like the entirely wholesome Gus Honeybun. Yes. So this kicks off with, as we mentioned, the Sooty Show.
Yes.
But that's a fucking looks like something you would use in a ritual.
Well, that's probably a better picture.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how I remember him.
That's a post-trepanning.
Yes.
Sooty, isn't it?
He was having very serious headaches.
There's the creator of Sooty, Harry Corbett, and again, that's something I didn't know as a child. I didn't realize that was his son on the Sooty Show when I was watching it growing up.
Well, I never saw Harry Corbett. It was always Matthew Corbett.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I found out later it was his son. But what I didn't realise was apparently Sooty started out edgy.
Yeah, that's the bit that blew my mind.
This is the thing.
Yeah. Like a bit of a punch kind of figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With a real hammer.
Yeah,
with a real hammer.
With a real hammer hitting Harry Corbett over
in the head.
Yeah.
Like proto Rod Hull.
Sooty's annual there, if anyone has a copy of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it does sound, again, this is something that is in danger of, this is just on that line, isn't it, of finding something of interest in something like peripheral. But without having seen the episode in question, so far I trust Fowler and Pratt that it's, if you have the right eyes to see it, there is something there, rather than they've just made something out, like they happened to catch it. They were in the archive one day and they smoked a spliff at lunchtime, went back and found a Sooty episode, watched it, and then went, dude, we got to put this in the book. I think it probably is interesting if in the right context, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the really interesting thing about this book, which we mentioned earlier, is the selections are not obvious. No. So you've got a picture of Hartley hair there, right? From what I remember, the Pipkins was quite fucked up. They were quite. There's plenty to talk about if you want to talk about the Pipkins, or any number of like the shit Rod Hull was doing in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if you just want to go for if you just wanted to go for vaguely.
Yeah, or the double deckers, or Roland Rat, or there's plenty of stuff you could talk about.
Spooky, antiquated, haunted kind of thing. You'd go straight for Back Puss or something like that, right? Which is yeah. But so it's interesting that they've made that selection, and that's kind of piques your interest as well. I occasionally show things from my childhood that are on YouTube. to my wife. Like I'll show her bits from like a Bagpuss or Button Moon or something like this, and she always shakes her head and says, "Ah, okay, now I understand why you are the way you are." Like, this is the crap you were watching when you were a kid.
And then you just pull out what the kure takoa or whatever takura stuff. Like there's no shortage of mad Japanese children's programming from the 70s.
Flipside Japan, please.
Yeah.
That would be yeah. So then so that was fascinating. The whole how Sooty went from, I don't know, the same trajectory Elvis and Godzilla went on, when they were threatening to begin with and then became lovable.
Yeah, because Sooty, I think the one takeaway I had from this was Sooty was originally adult entertainment, so cabaret entertainment.
Yeah, or at least
as opposed to
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that from the Matthew Corbett era I grew up with. It was all very...
It was pretty twee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I don't even remember what Sooty and Sweep and Sue got up to, really. They were...
Sweep was always naughty, wasn't he? Sweep was always getting into trouble. The fuck is that?
I was agreeing with you in Sweep language.
That didn't sound anything... Sweep.
Well, you fucking do it then. You try it.
Well, I don't sound like a fucking squeaky fucking... Actually, I've got a squeaky toy downstairs. It's Sweep sounds like is a squeaky toy anyway.
Yes.
Right.
I'm better off sticking to Cornish Kenneth Williams. That's my
fucking forgotten what I was saying though.
Well, we were saying how twee Sooty and
and Sooty was like the good guy, and Sweep was like the naughty guy, and Sue was just a bit of crumpet on the side. Yeah.
Bit of crumpet on the side. Yes. That's right.
And then we get into Tintin, right?
As we say around here, a bit of denim.
Yeah.
Yes, Tintin and the Golden Fleece.
Yes.
As you remember them, as them. Tintin
from your
and not Sooty.
Snowy.
Yes,
Snowy.
There we go.
Snowy. That
I've
was
never
a new
seen
one
those
on
live
me.
action. Sorry, go ahead.
That was a new one on me. The live action Tintin.
Was that there were? Yeah. I might have seen like pictures from it, but yeah, I've never seen them.
Well, Tintin's one of those ones. I never really got Tintin, and I suspect I will. Tintin. We had Tintin comics in school, and Tintin was always really attractive. There was something about Tintin, something about the look of it, something a very spare kind of art style, and
the line, yeah, sure.
And
the racism.
I was always like, oh, I bet I'm gonna love Tintin. And then I'd read Tintin, and then somehow it never connected.
Didn't grab you.
But I'm
still
same. You're the same way.
Yeah, I was not. I was never a huge.
But I still have hope that I might get Tintin one day, or Tantan as he's called here.
Tantan. Yes, I was going to say my friend Edmond Brisson used to constantly. We used to give him hell for calling him Tantan, but that is the actual name.
But yeah, so no, but these do look interesting. They look more interesting than the Peter Jackson.
There's a nice little aside here, and it comes up a few times in the book, and it is that very, very much that Yorkshireman thing, but about how this is a time when you're at home and you're 8 years old and you see some weird shit on TV that comes from Eastern Europe, that comes from somewhere you don't know, and you catch it once, and you're like, what was that thing? And you talk about it at school the next day and nobody else saw it, or maybe one other person did. And then it's just lost in the ether because you don't have a Wikipedia to go to. You don't have...
And
there's nowhere to go to know what it was.
Well, right? And it becomes myth. I mean, me and Darren would have had this growing up together. Even though we met when we were in our teens, we still had these vague snippets, and do you remember? And went, oh yeah, and then we talk about it, and it would just become this thing. And
I've still got stuff in my head that I want to rewatch, but I don't know the titles.
Right,
same as you were saying.
Weirdly, a lot of Australian children's TV program that really, really freaked me out when I was a kid. There was one very Lovecraftian thing.
Isn't there? Yeah. Sorry, go on.
There was one weirdly Lovecraftian thing about these kind of like aliens that lived under like a volcano or I don't know in a lake. It was really honestly, it terrified me, but I really enjoyed it. That had a continuing narrative, and there was just weird.
But what's interesting is, again, there's the danger in that you've created something that's more interesting in your own head. But
yeah,
again, what I suspect they've done, sidestepped here, is they've gone for the things that not necessarily live up to but certainly the reality of them is as interesting as whatever it is you've created. I mean, there's other things as well, like, not that I don't know what they are, I know what they are, but I just haven't gone back to see them just because I'm slightly worried that they will ruin my childhood memories of them. So I remember sometimes in primary school they'd wheel the telly out and they'd show certain programs, and I'm still not quite sure why they were deemed like necessary to watch it. And I'm not talking about the mathematics, but sometimes like dramas, there was like a strand in the middle of the day they'd show. I'm guessing they might have gone along with books, maybe, that you were supposed to read along with them.
And I know what you're talking about, and I think it was a show called Look and Read or something like that.
Might have been, yeah.
And there was a spaceman one where there was
the
two
boy
aliens.
from outer space.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me because there was
same.
The boy from outer space was pursued by that tall, a bit like Angus Scrim from Phantasm, right? Like
This is tickling a part of my brain as well.
And it was just like, I remember scenes of the little boy like trying to get out of a pit in a quarry or something, and then this creepy, mute, tall, white-haired man would be coming closer. And then there was the Dark Tower as well as another one.
Dark Tower, yeah. Not that Dark Tower though, was it?
Yeah.
No.
The Stephen King Dark Tower.
No. It was
just a haunted tower.
Yeah.
So I think that was a show. It's called something like Look and Read.
Right.
And it was the same show that used to have the orange floating character with like all numbers and letters.
Dalek looking thing.
Yeah.
Orange Dalek with the mumps.
That's it. Yeah. That was. I think that was the same show.
Ah, right. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
How I managed to retain that information over.
No, well done.
35, 40 years. I don't know.
One I always remember, and Nick wouldn't have got this one because it was Welsh TV programming, but Fenestri. Do you remember that?
Fenestri, I do remember Fenestri.
You had the animated. Fenestri. Anyway, sorry, that's me and Darren being indulgent. Doctor Who: The Trial of a Time Lord. So this truly shows the perversity of the minds who wrote this book. That of all of Doctor Who, they're going to choose. Wonder.
Yes, Colin Baker's clown costume, psychotic version of the Doctor when it gets basically turfed off the air, or just about.
Well, to be fair, Darren has been a long-time supporter of the Colin Baker run.
Oh, yeah, because he's not fucking Tristan from All Creatures Great and Small.
I don't get that reference.
Never have experienced...
is that Peter Davidson?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I have never been as disappointed as any transition as the transition from Tom Baker to Peter Davison. So when Colin Baker showed up, I was also pleasantly surprised this is a Doctor with some age.
Exactly. If you take the coat, if you take the stupid fucking coat off Colin Baker, he's a good Doctor Who. He is a good Doctor Who. Yeah,
he's great. I don't know that he's served great by stories.
No. Yeah, but the stories were so fucking violent.
Some of them were, yes.
There's like one where Patrick Troughton turns into an alien and starts fucking and eating children.
Oh yes, yeah.
And there's another one. There's another one. There's a Dalek one where Davros is basically doing a Soylent Green factory. Yes.
But that one also does have Alexei Sayle running around shooting people with the power of rock and roll from the 50s.
Yeah, that's bad, isn't it?
For every good idea, there's a very bad one.
I think in the same episode, Richard Bryars is like this swashbuckling hero.
Yes,
it's not a good look for Richard Bryars.
And there is an amazing one actually that has Brian Blessed.
Richard Bryars. Richard Bryars. You said Richard Bryars, but in my mind, I saw Richard O'Brien. And I thought, I can
Who would
see
also be
Richard
great.
O'Brien as a swashbuckler. Oh, Richard Bryan! Oh, no. Ever decreasing circles, Richard Bryan as a swashbuckling pirate. Oh, no, that's no.
Space pirate.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Space pirate.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Space Pirate Richard Bryan. But yeah, but there's just that one that has it has Brian Blessed, and I think that's the one where it ends. Yeah.
That's this one. That's this episode.
Harry with like the companion being lobotomized.
Yeah.
Like she's got the stitches across her head and she's been her brain's been scrambled.
Yeah, that's exactly this episode.
See, you're both what, 3 years older than me, something like that. So so there's a slight difference here because you were just about old enough to have caught almost the entire Colin Baker run.
Yeah. In real time, yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm just a little bit too late. I remember the tail end. I saw maybe 1 or 2 episodes. But unfortunately, I grew up with fucking Sylvester McCoy. See, so I can't quite join in the enthusiasm for the Colin Baker era Doctor Who. I've gone back and I've watched them, and I kind of get it, but the seed wasn't sown at a young age.
Right.
So
and I must have seen like a lot of
fucking playing Doctor Who, which did nothing for me then or
No.
Oh, I did fancy Ace. That was the only thing when I was a kid. Yeah.
I think I must have seen a lot
not
of
as much as
repeats.
Sorry.
Yes, no. But I was gonna say I think I must have seen a lot of Tom Baker in repeats as well, because I'm not exactly all like I wouldn't have seen the beginning of his run.
Funny enough, the first Doctor Who I ever remember seeing, and it really upset me at the time, and I must have been 4 years old at the time, was the one where Tom Baker regenerates into Peter Davidson.
Me too. That's crazy.
Because he falls off this like tower.
Yep. And the whole episode, or that whole last series, has this really kind of depressing, somnambulant kind of quality. Like it's all very, you can feel something's wrong the whole way through that serial, and then there's that weird white thing that keeps showing up.
Coming around.
Yeah, that kind of
It is a weird gear shift, though, isn't it? It's like Tom Baker. So it's like if you were at school or something, and you had like a really super cool anarchic teacher who made fun of the other teachers. All the kids loved him. Okay, he might have touched some of the younger girls every now and again, which you found out about later that spoiled your entire image of him. But in general, he was a lot of fun. And then you came back to school the next term and he'd been replaced by, John Major or something. Like,
really fucking boring.
I'll be your new teacher and we're going to have a lot of fun, it is. Yeah. I can see how people would have been, as a nation, would have just mourned.
Those 3 years, those 3 years were, that's all rough Doctor Who. I've gone back.
To be fair, he had a tough act to follow, right?
He did, and again, I'm probably not his fault that he was written so badly, because I think in his very last serial, you kind of get a sense of what he might have been with a decent writing.
Because there's one episode that I don't think I saw when I was a kid, or at least I didn't remember, with Peter Davidson in, where because he wears like cricket whites, doesn't it? That's his like thing. Is he like saves a spaceship by bowling a cricket ball?
Yes.
In the space.
Yes.
That's not good. But then again, see, if it had been like if it had come after Colin Baker, I think I probably would have enjoyed Peter Davison more than I would have Sylvester McCoy.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Well, yeah.
You've got the added bonus with Peter Davison and Colin Baker. You've got the added bonus of Perry.
Yes, indeed. Bouncing around in her lycra.
In her not a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good for me when I was a teenager. That was healthy.
The other memory I have of Sylvester McCoy era Doctor Who as well was there was a show. I guess it must have been done for charity or something, and it was basically done live, if I'm remembering this correctly, maybe over a weekend or maybe over a serial a week, and it was it was a story that was written by kids who wrote in. It wasn't in the Doctor Who story, it was in something else, and it was like write your own adventure, and then someone else would write the next chapter, the next chapter, the next chapter, and then they would play it blind, and that was Sylvester McCoy, I think, who did.
The one I remember, the special that I remember is the EastEnders one.
Yes.
When Doctor Who came down and was in EastEnders.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
And not just one Doctor,
no, it was
but
like all of them,
except for the first two who were dead. But Pertwee right through McCoy, they're all in it. Tom Baker's first return to the role after many years of not coming back.
Yeah.
When was
it's
that?
terrible.
Well, probably late 80s, so like 87 or 88, probably something like that.
Right. Basically, I think actually after it had been cancelled. Crazily enough, I think it was
so
right as it was being cancelled.
Before McCoy, then?
No.
It was right at the tail end of McCoy's run.
Oh, okay. I probably checked out at that point then.
It's on YouTube, but it's not worth your time. I promise you. If you're a fan of EastEnders or a fan of Doctor Who, it's not worth your time.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He's going to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not until, and moving into true stories, not until I watched cricket match on a fishing match during
absolutely
from 1899.
Sounds so good.
Who the fuck knew they used to show footage of the sea coming in?
I would see that now. I would easily go and pay and see that now.
I'd go and see that over,
anything that Michael Bay is
releases. Yeah,
it's gorgeous. I mean, there's like just shots of these various, stormy sea footage.
So that looks good. On to Darren's what Darren's been trying to track down: Out of Step, Nudism and Witchcraft, and these do seem quite fascinating. It has to be said.
Mm.
Yes, I do like this photograph here. It's all very English.
Yeah. Well, of course, just on a wicker point, of course, Gerald Gardner was a well-known nudist and had his little cottage on one of the nudist camps where he used to do all his witchcraft stuff. So the two are intrinsically linked.
Can either of you hear a strange humming noise?
Yeah, I can actually. It might be the fan on my computer. It could be.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not particular. I'm not noticing it.
Okay.
I think it's my end. Yeah.
On to another two essential seeming items. The documentary is Primitive London from 1965.
Yeah. This is new to me. I hadn't heard of these.
Yeah.
Under the Table, I love this.
Yeah. That's the best Britain can offer as far as Mondo.
Chicken factory.
Fucking chicken factory.
And there with their chicken.
Yeah, and some spotty Herberts down the cafe.
Well,
that's
speaking of spotty Herberts down there, who's this fellow in a helmet?
It's the Doctor.
Flicking the V's, no less.
Yes. So, I mean, we didn't say anything about them other than that, but that's the thing. I mean, if we said
Mondo.
Yeah.
But that's all there is.
Obviously, must see. Yeah.
And
then this photograph jumped out at me as well.
Yeah.
Child's foot in a shoe, but made out of a bog roll that's been dipped in paint.
Voyage, which is seems to be a this is the public information what to do if there's a
terrorist attack thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Which the timing of this is interesting. I was going to say we talked about this before, Clive, because when we talked about Hackney, and I brought up the Angry Brigade, right, which was England's kind of homegrown anarcho terrorist group, right, who never, I think, successfully actually like hurt anyone. They blew up some buildings and stuff, but I think they were relatively careful with.
They were just angry, right? They were.
Yeah, just upset. And so this would have been very much a real thing, and this is pre-Irish kind of terrorism in England. So this is, it's an interesting little moment in time for England, I think. And so it's interesting that they're viewing it as a homegrown thing. it's not like a foreign. It's not out of Ireland. It's not out of the Middle East. This is what we have to do if angry English people,
when
if commies,
the Bash Street kids get political, you get the
yes, when they
Angry Brigade. Yeah.
that's when they start making Molotov cocktails in the bathtubs.
When Teach isn't watching.
Yeah. I'm going to disappear for just 2 minutes.
Okay.
Please carry on.
Okay. We won't wait for you.
I'm wondering what his camera's going to do in his absence.
No, who knows? Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about that. Just interesting.
Well, I think as fascinating as all this stuff is, I think the one of this chapter, like if you had to choose like one particular thing that you really, really must see, I think it's the next one, isn't it? Skin Flicker.
Skin Flicker, yeah, which again gets at this English terrorism idea, right?
Yeah, but in this kind of
a little bit of The Last House on the Left.
Well, it seems to have been filmed in this faux kind of snuff kind of docudrama style, right? Where it just kind of, there's no setup on where it just smashes you over the head and comes in, and it's the kind of thing I would imagine that if it, well, I can't remember now because it's been a while since I read this, but it's the kind of thing that if it had been prepared for broadcast, it probably would have gone the way of the War Game or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Would not have been shown, right?
No.
But yeah, Skin Flicker seems like that jumps out at me as a real find, and that's of all the things that's something that may end up on a disc at some point, right?
Yeah, I should take a quick run and see if it's available any of the places that we find these things for sure. Because yeah, as I said, it has elements of man bites dog and all kinds of things from much later on, and yeah, that kind of faux cinema verite, but dealing with rough subject matter.
And we mentioned the War Game, and yeah, the War Game kicks off the War Room section of the book. I mean, there's not much to say about the War Game that hasn't been said before. But yes, like you said, I mean, it's the granddaddy of all those, threads and all that stuff.
Yeah, the reason I still have nightmares about mushroom clouds. Yes, so I mean, it's interesting actually that they it's one of the few things in the book that's like, oh, I've heard of that. It's yes,
there's a few things in there which are maybe necessary in a way to kind of bring readers in a little bit, so it's not just totally. I have no idea what you're talking about, right? But you throw the War Game in, you throw Sooty and Doctor Who, and those are
they got a few threads to grab onto there.
When
you're drowning.
And then there's a section on a film which is odd. I read this section twice, and I'm interested to see it, but I still don't actually know what White Dust is about. Like, it's in this section, and it sounds a bit wonky arty. But also kind of sounds interesting. But it's interesting that I still don't have a clue what it actually is.
No, me neither.
But if
it seems like it's in this section maybe because the filmmaker himself was a veteran, more than it necessarily deals overtly with war subject matter, right?
Right, but there must be a bit more to it than that, I think, because I mean, a lot of people making stuff.
Yes,
veterans, right? But yes, but it seems to be some sort of direct interface between, some sort of PTSD made to a film,
made flesh or made cinema.
Just in case you have anything you wanted to add, Darren, you have missed our chats on Skin Flicker,
the
War Game, and White Dust.
Yeah, I mean, Skin Flicker.
Yep.
Edgy as fuck. Really want to see that.
Yeah, that's the one we were saying.
Yeah.
I'm glad your camera being weird waited until you came back.
Was it? It must be. It's me. It's my electromagnetic field.
Hmm.
I wonder if it's my phone. I have my phone nearby. I wonder if I throw it over there, it'll make it. Ooh.
Oh. There we go.
Ah, okay.
That may well have been it.
It wouldn't be a YouTube video, Darren, if at some point he didn't throw something, knock something over, or trip over something.
Yeah, I don't quite know what fell, but something fell.
Considering that most YouTube video consists of someone sitting in a chair, it's amazing how much slapstick comedy you managed to get.
How much damage Darren managed.
I specialise in stationary-based destruction. Yes.
So here's an interesting one: the blockhouse.
Yeah.
And I mean, the film itself.
I want to read the novel.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Actually, I've got that marked.
It sounds grim as hell
for a future literary effect.
Yeah.
But more than that, I don't know if this is something. So I have a slight. Well, so Peter Sellers, right? So they mentioned the blockhouse, and they also mentioned the other one that sounds fascinating is the Hoffman, right? The one, yeah. And there's a few other things. There's that film that what's it called? The film, like a piratey film that he kind of fucked up the production of, and then they made a documentary later about the making of it. But so I've always had this thing with Peter Sellers. So basically, if you grow up of a certain era, you're told that Peter Sellers is a genius, right?
Yes.
That's what you're told. Peter Sellers, comedy genius. He's amazing, fantastic. Oh my God, Peter Sellers, he's just the bee's knees, right? He's the dog's bollocks. And I'm not saying that it's not right, but I've never seen it for myself. So, for instance, even something really great like, let's say, Doctor Strangelove. I think Doctor Strangelove is a legit great film. Peter Sellers is very good in it. But even that, which I would consider like peak Peter Sellers, even that is, I don't know, it seems very like, I put on a funny voice. And
it's very demonstrative, isn't it? It's
it's very non-subtle and it's just someone going variations of putting on a very stupid, and the Goons seem like that to me as well. See, I know we didn't grow up with the Goons, and all those people, the Goons, they changed comedy, they were great, but then we listen to the Goons and it's just and he's like, what the fuck is this puerile crap? It just hasn't aged well. Even Alexis, I remember there's an episode of Alexis Hale, there's this. He had one sketch when he's listening to the Goons and he's just clearly being entirely well, isn't just the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life. but it's interesting. So I've never seen the genius of Peter Sellers. Again, Inspector Clouseau, again, very broad stick, right? Not that it's bad or anything like that, but it's not what I've been told all my life Peter Sellers is. Yeah. It is something a bit more subtle and a bit more kind of, So, but on the other hand, him as a very, very difficult human being by the sounds, I find that interesting. And I've always wanted to dive into Peter Sellers more and the whole, the film version of him and the real him. But I don't know, I've never quite found the right kind of entry point to get. And it seems as if maybe this blockhouse might be the, I don't know, where do you stand on Peter Sellers, the both of you? Do you kind of get it, or do you find it a bit mystifying, or have you not thought about it at all? I don't know.
Go ahead there, Darren, and then I'll
I was gonna. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't object to Peter Sellers.
Right.
I think he's fine in all of the stuff he's in. Actually, outside of when I was a child and I used to watch the Pink Panther films.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever laughed at Peter Sellers.
No.
And yeah, I get it. He he's kind of comedy, he thinks of it, he seemed to have this image. I wouldn't say he thought of himself this way, but he seemed to have this image of kind of the comedy version of Lon Chaney, the man of a thousand faces.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed to be kind of the pigeonhole that he either put himself in or got put in. So that, everything he's in has got a stupid fucking voice in, or he has to play 8 different characters in the same film.
Right.
And I think they make a decent case in this, actually, that he either didn't allow himself, or because of his kind of obsession with getting into a character, and working out the minutiae of the character and potentially making something exciting dull, because it's real, to make it real for him.
Yes.
I think they make a decent case for his kind of, to think of him a little bit more seriously in that chapter, actually. But I haven't seen any evidence of it, so it's quite difficult.
But I wonder if it's something to do with if you start thinking about, that kind of thing where you take comedy so seriously and you start thinking about why something is funny, that you get into the territory of it's not actually funny anymore, but it's interesting.
Yeah, or it's the work,
Yeah, it's a bit like some of the stuff Andy Kaufman was doing, maybe, or even something along the lines of some of the stuff that Chris Morris does. Even though he always, almost everything he does is fun, but every now and again there's something that's just like, if you listen to the Jam radio series, like some of the stuff that was on that was just upsetting. Like, it wasn't actually that funny.
Yeah.
But it was that mixture of just, that's horrible. And then
that is kind of my favourite stuff of what he's done.
Absolutely. But I'm just wondering if he'd have come along at a different time, and he would have been it wasn't of the more kind of older music hall kind of world. The roots are there, right? The Goons and so. I'm wondering if later on maybe he would have been doing stuff like that. Maybe.
Yeah, likely, actually. Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, it's hard for me again to tease out the first stuff I would have seen would have been the Pink Panther films too, and I loved them when I was a little kid, right? And all of their anarchic stupidity and Herbert Lom and the rest of it. And then a little bit older would have seen Dr. Strangelove, which I liked a lot. But then I think I saw The Party, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't find it amusing. I didn't find it funny. There was nothing about it I liked, and then I might have seen 1 or 2 other films that were kind of more in that era of, which is maybe this thing of where he's becoming the proto Mike Myers, in this thing of playing too many characters and taking it all, and the humor's not there. But then what is it? It's just not a very interesting movie then, because it's not funny, but it's not dramatic enough either. It's neither fish nor fowl.
The only thing I think I've seen that I remember from the get-go getting it, and it's a very restrained that film, I'm All Right, Jack, right, which is his kind of satire of trade unions and stuff like that, and that works quite well. Again, it's a very toned down Peter Sellers, right? It's a much more subtle. They're a bit more well observed, the things he does, rather than kind of over the top. But he does sound like a nightmare of a man, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
But anyway, music and movie.
But anyway, a movie where he spends the entire thing, in the dark, in a bricked in a that movie sounds really claustrophobic.
Well, if he's got any chops, then that's the film to show his chops, isn't it?
Right.
That's the decider, isn't it? That's how you decide if he's any good, really.
Yes. Can he sit in a chair yet make things all around him fall off shelves?
Well, he's no Darren Jones.
He's no Darren Jones.
But he might still be good.
So we're in the music section.
The music chapter.
Yes. Yeah, up jumped the swag man.
I want to see all of these.
Yes, with Frank Ifield.
Swagman down upon the billabong.
Yeah, this does sound like a pretty fascinating satire, like a pre-Hard Day's Night
Yeah.
With Susie Kendall.
Yeah. Yeah, but even more interesting than that, can Hieronymus Merkin ever forget Mercy
Yes.
and find friends with Anthony Newley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has got to be like bloated Hollywood, hasn't it?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I've seen it, but if I imagine if you want to see an example of indulgent, bloated Hollywood of the 70s,
Yes.
that's where you go.
And sharing too much as well, like
Yeah, because it's his life, isn't it? It's like his life and his children, like explaining to his real life children.
So dark how they don't
divorced their mother.
Yeah.
And the whole Gary Glitter bit at the end as well just sounds. But it's interesting. I'm hoping, and I suspect it's what something like. So I always heard how like fascinating of a car wreck that film Skidoo was. You know, that Otto Preminger LSD attempted youth film, and then I ended up seeing it, and it's just crap, right? It's just naff. For me, there was nothing that interesting. It was just, this is terrible. But this strikes me as more like, this is what I was hoping that film would be, like fascinatingly terrible, like a real,
I went through a period of trying to watch a bunch of those 60s, like American, like counterculture, like it was one called RPM, Revolutions Per Minute, with Anthony Quinn, Wild in the Streets. They're all so bad, like so flat and boring, and like so totally made by a bunch of men in their 50s trying to understand what the kids are all about, and just like, and like so far away from whatever Abby Hoffman or the actual people who were in the streets. That stuff is just so shit. Anyway, and but this sounds interesting though, because this sounds like one person's very personal, issues being spread across the canvas for us all to see in this. The stuff about the family is just, I was like horrified. Would like to see it.
Yeah,
I've got higher hopes for that than for Ray Davis's Star Maker.
Well, but it's still essential viewing, though, isn't it?
I think it might be.
I am a big fan, and I did see that thing he did in the 80s, Return to Waterloo. Musical, which is kind of, again, not that good, but bit of an interesting State of the Nation kind of time capsule thing. But this doesn't sound that, I don't know. This was one of the few things, I mean, I will watch it, don't get me wrong, but this was one of the few things while reading about it in here, it didn't, I'm going to be trepidatious about watching Star Maker.
It's not that long, though. It's only like 30 minutes or something. So.
Yeah, but still, somehow I'm not, I don't know, it didn't appeal to me that much. But
I'll tell you how I think Star Maker will manifest itself, right? I don't know if you've seen this, but after Linda Carter was Wonder Woman,
right,
she had this like singing career, and there's some footage on YouTube, right, of her doing like a little variety show for half an hour, right, and it's basically her in all sorts of costumes, doing cover versions and dressing up like the stars that did. So it's basically like stars. Linda Carter does stars in their eyes, right?
Tonight's Matthew.
Exactly.
I'm gonna be with you.
So she dresses up like Tina Turner,
right?
And then she dresses up like Kiss.
This sounds awful. This sounds.
Yeah, no, it is. But it's just captivatingly awful.
Well, see, now this is the high wire act, right? And I think this is for each of us. I think we all have a slightly different. This is, I can see this as something that you would find captivatingly awful, whereas I would just leave the room. Like
you would find it genuinely awful.
I just couldn't be going. And I think we all have a slightly different dosage that.
Those lines are drawn in different places for everyone, for sure.
Darren will give. Darren will give Hundra an hour before, whereas me and Geraldine were ready to turn it off after 20 minutes. Now I sit down with it.
You do know it's been 25 years since we sat down and watched Tundra.
It's about time we did
not,
it again.
You've not forgotten, have you?
No.
You've
But I've not forgotten me and Geraldine arguing with you, not the film. I remember nothing about the film.
I'd forgotten to mention that that Bruce Forsyth was in the film before, the American one.
Yeah.
Which immediately, I mean, anything with Bruce Forsyth immediately raises my interest.
Was it really? That's interesting. To me, I have the opposite. I'm like, no, I'm not. But it's interesting because they mentioned he's very good in it as well. And
yes,
maybe he is.
I'd like to see that.
I don't. It's funny because he was such a staple of my childhood. I don't think of Bruce Forsyth as ever being good. Like I never. That was a particularly fine episode of Play Your Cards Right.
Right.
Like it was all just the same.
But this is pre-game show host.
I understand,
Forsyth, isn't it?
But I have no frame of reference for that, so I'm just imagining that. Right. And fairly, obviously, he did have an earlier career, but
I assume Les Dawson must have as well, right?
Yeah, again, Les Dawson for me is that. Oh, he's another one of those unfunny men who was on the telly when I was a kid. I'm sure in his,
I bet he was great in like working men's clubs, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a great book about him.
His autobiography is brilliant, apparently.
Is that the one that Marky Smith says is everyone should read? We need to get that, and we need to read that. If Marky Smith says it's the best book about entertainment ever written, it probably is.
But it is interesting to I mean that's a whole other thing as well. And that would be deserving of a book or maybe even another YouTube channel because we've plenty of time. But it would be interesting to take naff old kind of icons of your youth and then go back and see.
Agreed. I always used to wonder like why is this actor like what was and it's like somebody like Ernest Borgnine. I was like where does Ernest Borgnine what is the and then you go back and you'll find that there is something right near the very beginning of these people's careers that did catch the zeitgeist.
That's slightly different because Ernest Borgnine was still good when he was old.
In a very Borgnine-y kind of a way. But you know what I'm getting.
Even very basic things like why did Wogan and Des O'Connor get those chat shows? Like there's a reason, right? They didn't just come out the wood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll give you another one. Michael Barrymore.
Yes.
How the fuck did that cunt get on telly?
Right. That's what we. That's the name of the series. How
the
fuck did that cunt get on telly? I'm writing that down.
He is as well. He is writing it down.
I know. It's a great title.
That's a brilliant idea. How the fuck did that cunt get on telly? They copyright us. No one else better steal that title. There's countless examples, right? And like we were saying earlier, when we were talking about Sooty and stuff like that, you don't know, we were seeing the dregs, the
Yes. We
and
were
even
getting
to a certain extent, you could argue with Doctor Who as well, right? Like, I mean, if you only grew up with Sylvester McCoy, then you would know about William Hartnell and
Troughton, some of the best stuff,
and Tom Baker's a lot of Tom Baker stuff is legitimately good.
It's fantastic. Like the first 5 years of his 8-year run or 6 years is all like gold. Fire in the Water. What was this one?
Yeah, I don't remember what this was about.
I can't remember that.
It's got Elaine Delon's ex-wife in it. I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, it can't have piqued any sort of interest because we've all forgotten it. So I say we skip it.
Yes,
let's get to Quatermass.
Skip it just because this is getting epic.
Yes.
And you should read the book for yourself anyway. But there are some. We're getting into fantastic fiction, right? I do want to see The Stranger Left No Card.
Yes.
Agreed.
I was reading this.
I do actually have the comic remake of it as well. Is it?
Oh, you do? Okay, because by Frank Frazetta.
Frank
No
Frazetta
less.
drew it. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, this is quite a cool. This is the 4-color comic Fantagraphics, before very early 50s horror comics, pre kind of EC era.
Before the EC boom, yeah.
Actually, Nick, I think you might have actually read this. I might have lent.
I think he did lend it to me when I was in Japan. Yes,
There's another one, 4-color.
The superhero one.
The
superhero one too, which is great. Yeah. No, I was definitely interested in that, and it's a short as well, isn't it?
Yes, 23 minutes. Directed by Wendy Toy.
Yeah.
And then am I right in that she remade it once or twice as well?
No, it was remade as an episode of Tales of the Unexpected.
I've seen that one, and I saw that one recently. Would you believe?
Okay.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I thought because it's I think it's Derek Nimmo in the Stranger role.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Derek Nimmo. Slightly miscast, but actually does a very good job.
But Tales of the Unexpected is interesting, isn't it? Because again, of variable quality, I would suspect, if you went.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Still, probably some. The one I always remember from when I was a kid, I think lots of people remember, is that one about the man who discovers the trees scream when you cut them.
Oh yeah.
And he goes out with his headphones on, and he can just hear trees like screaming in agony all around him, which is just fascinating.
That's great.
Yeah, no, but I saw the Tales of the Unexpected one isn't pretty good actually.
Okay.
And this Wendy Toy seems like a really interesting character. Actually.
Yeah.
So in that for sure.
We're coming up now to this is one. This is the one again. That's on that line of I don't know if I'm going to go this far with them, but
although that picture is hard to get away from. A man in dungarees and a sexy woman in a pillowcase. Yeah, playing an alien.
Yeah, well, we found out it's a sexy woman. We didn't know that, but it turns out to be the one who turned up in Benny Hill and things, right? But she wasn't in a pillowcase. But this is a perfect. I mean, again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but this is near that territory of I don't know. They might be stretching it for the worker.
Had you ever even heard of this guy though?
Charlie Drake. Oh yeah, he's in lots of 1960s, 50s.
Oh, okay. I don't know that he was really on my radar.
I couldn't say for sure, but like you said earlier, Nick, the phenomenon of the comedian. I wouldn't be surprised if Charlie Drake is in, Confessions of a Door-to-Door Cucumber.
Oh yeah.
Like he'll pop up. Right, here's one then, because again, the gap between you strikingly old fogies and young virile me, you might just about remember this, and I don't. I've only ever heard of it. Hinvig.
No, this is that. I'd never heard of this before.
I'd never heard of it. No.
Oh, okay.
Never heard of it. And it's fucking Nigel Neal.
I know, it's a Nigel Neal sitcom, right?
But it sounds shit.
It does sound shit.
Terrible.
It really does sound shit.
But that hairstyle is something to admire, I think.
That anyone would be on telly with that
thing.
With that back as well, right?
I know, and the beard is like doesn't go.
Just looks
filthy. To be fair, her look isn't that much better, right?
No.
I thought I was doing a joke on you were talking about her hair to begin with.
Yeah, I was.
That's what I thought.
Oh, I'm talking about his horrendous ran out of the barber shop halfway.
Well, it was 81. It was a rough time for hair.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I'll be trying to watch that. It was just interesting that it comes out around the same time as they were mentioning other Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and stuff.
They don't mention it. There's only this picture, right? So I don't know if this is something from the series or if this is something that he published under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
That is explained in the chapter. It is. I can't quite remember how.
I was looking out for it. So history of the because I know Nigel Neal is a Manx, right? And he's fascinated by that. So is this a genuine book? He did write about the history of the Manx and he used the Kinvig pseudonym.
No.
No. This
No,
is
he
this is
just took
apparently
the name. He just took the name from.
because apparently it's a very very common name in Isle of
Oh,
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. No, it is explained. It's not a very exciting story, I don't think.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. I kind of got a bit confused at that point, obviously.
It'd be like me making a show called Murphy.
Right. How the fuck did that Murphy can't get on telly?
Yes, good question.
And then so then we're
Saturday Night Live, I think, was how that happened.
and then so here's another. So Electric Dreams. Now, if I had not seen Electric Dreams, then I would suspect that fuck, they've run out of ideas. They're getting into the 80s. It's getting a bit spotty, you know. But the thing is, I've seen Electric Dreams, and there is something. Have either of you seen Electric Dreams?
No.
Okay. There's something about that film that's, even though it is, it's a romantic love triangle rom-com about a computer, and it sounds like, and it's very 80s and it's very pop videos. But there is something about it. Wait, the Human League. It's not Human League. It's Phil Oakey and Georgie Moreau. Ever an electric dream. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good litmus test. So that's not necessarily one of my favorite songs or anything, but whenever I hear that song, that sends me somewhere. Like that. There's something evocative about that song for me, which the film also has. So it kind of bypasses any kind of critical part of my brain. So I get why that's here. I kind of get it, but that's very personal because that song will send the hairs on the back of my neck up. So I don't know where you stand with that song, but even if it's not that song, you have songs like that in your life, right? You have,
for sure. Not having seen the film, so it's difficult to comment. But reading it did seem like a stretch to include that.
Right. That's why I wanted to mention that.
Yes, it's hard for me to comment because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I would say so as well if I had. But then again, I'm not saying either that it's. I'm not exactly sure. I wouldn't wholeheartedly no, Darren and Nick, you must see Electric Dreams either. But I'm just saying I kind of get why it's there. It makes sense to me at least.
It did at least make me aware that there was a trope of sexy cellists in the 1980s that I had never put that together before.
No, when they brought it up, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, there is, isn't there? And then it ties into that. This might be a thing as well, isn't it? There's the whole thing about naked women playing.
Oh yeah.
Like
yes, yeah.
Violins or... Well, it's that also... thing, isn't it? It goes across the. You basically rub the area where your pelvis is.
You
play the cello.
There'll be a certain amount of jiggly action going on as well.
Oddly enough, you don't really get you don't often get the sexual fantasy in films of topless drummers, but that would be perfect, right? If they're nice and jiggly enough, a topless drummer would be a thing you could watch that all day long, couldn't you?
In slow motion.
Yeah. Or, the saxophone from The Devil's Honey, the Fulci film The Devil's Honey.
Yes.
The saxophone. In
right up the cooter, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Saxophone in the Minge, which I believe is the original Italian title.
I think you should upgrade the title of your new podcast to
Il Saxofone di Minge, I believe.
The other thing that this one just reading, because not that long ago, you and me and Gav watched that shit film about the computer system that kind of interferes in that music. That music producer's life. So obviously, that thing was in the air in the 80s.
Yes. Getting
Our
into
last
Tales of Terror. We were in the last leg here. Old Mother Riley meets the vampire.
Yeah, this really made me consider what the update of that would be. Mrs. Brown's boy meets the Jason. Like I'm just like what?
I've never seen an episode of
I
that
have.
show, and yeah.
Do not fucking give the producers of that show fucking ideas.
Okay, all right.
However unlikely it is they'll see this, if they did, and you know, it put the idea in the head. I know what we need. You know, we need like what they did for Mr. Bean. We could do a Mrs. Brown the movie.
There is one, isn't
You'd
there?
have to see
with
fucking
Leatherface.
posters of it all over the place.
Isn't there Mrs. Brown's Boy the movie? Or am I
is there?
confusing with something else?
Oh, it could be. Yeah.
Anyhow.
It's called Mrs. Brothers Brown Da movie, isn't it?
I think you're right, actually.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough then. That horse is bolted.
The damage has been done.
So we might as well add 80s horror staples. But yeah.
Have you seen this film? Because I saw this film years ago.
Years and years ago.
Yeah.
No.
I don't remember.
And-
I mean, it's one of those artifacts. There is more to read about than to watch, I think.
Yeah.
Even though it does have a.
I suspected so. From reading about it, I thought this is going to be more interesting to read about than it is to watch.
Yeah.
I think I seem to remember reading about this in the fucking hell. What's that book called? That every teenager in the 80s who was into film had, the Golden Turkey Awards.
Golden Turkey Awards.
Yeah.
It's in there. I seem to
Yes,
remember.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, because it would probably be in the same section as Plan 9 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, that's how I heard. That's how I remember hearing about it. And then it was on TV on rotation.
Yeah.
In probably the 90s.
No, I remember seeing it, and again, it's not really. I mean, the context is interesting. The fact that Bella was broke and trying to get back to the United States and all that, and then he was lumped in
out probably
with this other guy, and yeah, they were just like very confused. You can imagine Bella being a bit confused. Kind of, is a man or a woman or I don't know. See, I do Bella as well very badly, not just whatever the fuck I was doing earlier.
Cornish Kenneth Williams.
Yeah, there we go.
And then we're into perennial favorite Andy Milligan.
Yes.
So Darren, have you ever read? So Clive lent me two books at the same time, and I had just finished reading the Nightmare of Ecstasy, the Ed Wood biography. Which, if you have read that, you know that the back half of that was not adapted by Tim Burton and is incredibly depressing, like quite astonishingly grim. And I just finished that and was like, holy shit, that was dark. Well, this is gonna be a laugh riot. The Andy Milligan book. Have you read the Andy Milligan book?
No, I haven't read it at all. No.
The ghastly.
I'm not going to tell you. I want to no spoilers.
Yeah.
They don't actually touch on it. I don't think in this chapter. I don't remember them touching.
No.
Yeah. On
there's
how
nothing particularly bad.
The revelations that are laid down in the end of that book. That's an incredible book. You should have. It's one of. I would put it in my top 5 film books.
Great.
Oh, it is a good.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. Okay. No,
and it's also I think it's a book that's necessary to watch Andy Milligan films as well, because if you've ever tried going in on cold on most Andy Milligan films, you understand why he has the reputation as being unwatchable, right? Like they're quite oddly enough. Ron watched a couple of Andy Milligan films recently on our other Septic Shock road trip, and he was actually quite not favourable exactly. It's not as if he enjoyed them, but he was quite sympathetic to the Milligan touch, oddly enough, which I was quite surprised. I think he was coming from the theatrical angle.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that Fleshpot on 42nd Street. I think I
still haven't seen oddly enough, but that's the one everyone says is actually a really good
I think that's a masterpiece.
And it comes from his period when he was making sex, and most of them are not extant, so we're not seeing the best of his. Again, how did that get on telly? It's his earlier stuff that's interesting,
right?
But I think if you read the Jimmy McDonough book and then watch Milligan's films, it helps you along a little bit because you
contextualize them quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're still not rip-roaring watches. They're still pretty tough to get through, but it's definitely worth doing it that way round. I think watch along with the book kind of thing. I would really recommend.
But it's just a great piece of.
The Body Beneath is actually one of his more interesting ones, I have to say.
Okay, he's not been super on my radar, I must say. But yeah, I'll read the book and then I'll
I would
catch
say,
up with
to
the
be honest, I
filmography.
would say that
Yeah.
like that's a book. You know, the way like sometimes you read a book about a band that you don't actually particularly, but the story is really good. Like the
Oh, yeah.
if you never listen to the albums, and I say that's the same in that case. You can read that book and
even if you've never watched an Andy Milligan film, you love the book.
it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, great.
But the Body Beneath is actually kind of quite interesting with the Highgate Cemetery stuff.
Yeah, I quite like the sound of it actually in there.
Yeah, it is. It is
budget as it was.
There's actually there's a quote from the Jimmy McDonough book which is quite good. I'll give you a taste. He mentions the trio of mute green-faced harpies swathed in neon-coloured dresses who creepy crawl in and out of shots like creatures from a Murnau film accidentally shot in comic book colour. And it is kind of that. So that is kind of interesting, the look of it.
Yeah.
But obviously that pales in comparison to
Yes, cooking price-wise.
I was looking for that all morning on YouTube and Vimeo.
No,
and it's not around. It is not around.
I was wondering how tough this would be to find because I just want to hear him talk about potato.
I'll tell you what I did find though.
Yeah,
I found Vincent Price doing. It was this clip, and again I was searching Vincent Price. What's it called? Cooking price-wise.
Price-wise, yes. I'm guessing that's supposed to be budget cooking. I'm guessing.
It seems like it, maybe.
Yeah, but then I decided to broaden the search and put in Vincent Price cooking on TV.
Yeah.
And there's this show, and it looked like the what's the famous talk show? Andy Graham. What was the famous talk show host?
Andy Griffith.
Griffith, that's it.
Right.
I think it was on the Andy Griffith show, and he cooked some fish in a dishwasher. Right? He cooked some fish in a dishwasher. Fucking shit you not. He had a fucking dishwasher on the stage with him, and he had put some fish in tin foil in there, and he'd switched the dishwasher on, and then it, obviously the cycle had completed, and it had steamed the fish, so the fish was cooked. And he's deboning the fish. And I can't remember the exact joke now, but it really surprised me. He's deboning the fish. And Andy Griffith says, wow, you're really good at getting all the bones off the fish. And he says, well, when you've been married as long as I have, you learn a lot about boning. And I thought, oh, that's a bit rich. That's a bit cheeky.
Wow. Did you serve the fish with potatoes?
No, that's all I saw. That's all there was. But that's if ever you want to, I'm guessing it's a little bit of a flavour of it. Then it's on YouTube somewhere.
Easier to find might be a copy of Man About the Kitchen with Richard O'Sullivan.
I really want that book.
Yes,
I really want that book.
I can't tell it on this, but this for the era de rigueur stockings and knickers.
Yeah.
And this fucking pot. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm imagining Neil from the Young Ones making
his lentils. Yeah.
And he does look a bit fucking grubby in it as well, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole
it just
they have to wipe the pot clean. Like there's everything about like they didn't give a shit in the 70s. Everything's covered in a slight
greasy film.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Yes, and then we have these couple of TV productions. The
Vampires looked quite interesting.
Vampires, and actually the Dracula Business, the documentary. I would probably watch that if it was on YouTube as well.
Oh yeah.
And then finally, again, a film I'm ashamed to say I've never seen. It's been on my radar for a while, but I've never got round to it. The anthology Scream Time.
I've never seen that.
Getting back round to Derek Ford again. I'm sure our mate Gav has seen it. Sounds good. It's like 3 different shorts, right, that they put together and pretend and package
in America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it does. I quite like the sound of it because one of them has a gnome, a killer gnome in it.
Giant killer gnome, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember. It reminded me as well. There's a book I've always been meaning to get a hold of. I think it might be by. No, it can't be by John Christopher. But it's that one. It's it's a horror novel about Nazi whip wielding gnomes.
Oh yes. I've seen the cover of that, and it's outrageous. Yeah.
Is it John Christie? Am I making that up? Or
don't know. I can't remember. I just remember you showed me the cover or somewhere in one of those, maybe Paperback Fanatics or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
There was a cover image from it, and it's
it looks. Right. Anyway, so yes, we've done another. I think I'm blaming Darren for this because last time he came on, we did.
It was about 3 hours.
We went 5 hours.
Part two. Yeah. Anyway, so final thoughts about. I mean, I don't know how well. I mean, we banged on about it for close to 3 hours, but I'm not sure if we really did the book service because we just kind of lost really but yeah, even
no, it's great. It's great. It's funny.
If we bored the shit out of you, don't worry, the book.
The book won't. No. It's erudite. It's funny. It's got tons of information that was new to me.
It's all the things we didn't provide in this.
Precisely, yes. Imagine the opposite of this podcast.
Yes.
And that's what you get here.
But there's no Cornish Kenneth Williams in it.
Nope.
More's the pity, Clive.
Yes, so you're not getting everything.
No, and you're not getting Darren's dodgy cam invasion, whatever the hell that was.
No, that's psychedelic.
This,
yeah.
But no, it's certainly it's definitely. I would say it's a must read, right? If any of it sounds vaguely interesting, you'll know if it's for you or not. Okay, here's a question then. Let's try and do something substantial to go out on. If you're not of our demographic, if you didn't grow up at a certain time and place, and let's imagine a young millennial from Zimbabwe, right, picks up this book. What do we think? Do we think you already have to be steeped in, or do you think this works cold?
No, because I think I can remember being in my 20s and picking up books that were published in the early 70s or late 60s about horror films, for example. And I could still find out things I didn't know, or often did actually. Would like the first time I ever read about Jean Rollin, I think was in some like really surprisingly old book about like vampire films. And there was this lengthy chapter about the European stuff that was going on back then, written then, not written by somebody now. Sorry?
About who?
Jean Rollin.
Jean Rollin.
Ah, okay, sorry. No, okay. No, you made it sound like Jean Rollin. I didn't know who she was.
yeah, she's great.
No, I'm not sort of an asshole. I genuinely didn't pick up that you were talking about
Rollin.
Yeah.
You know, like Jules Verne.
So
I would think the same thing for somebody who's younger. This could be like an absolute treasure trove of like, or even just to get the corners of things to be like, ooh, like I want to pry this corner up, or what's under this bit of carpet.
Well, we're not the demographic for this book either, in many ways. Because a lot of the stuff's coming from the early 70s, from the 50s, from the 30s, even the turn of the 20th century. I
suppose what I'm trying to do is to get away from myself. I'm trying to so this kind of like I mentioned, it's the strata thing again, right? It's like you start off as a horror fan, and then you go into more exploitation thing, and then you grow up with a certain nostalgia telly, and then like I said, you go back and you see the stuff you missed, the Owl Service, Penda's fan, blah blah blah, and then not necessarily. And then you get down to like this secret subterranean level you didn't know existed. That was below the basement, and you're like, oh fuck, we got to go down there with a candle, and But so that makes sense to me. That's how the architecture is. But I'm just, if this was if you read this and went looking for this stuff before you'd seen like a Hammer film, or before you'd seen Taste the Blood of Dracula, or I'm just wondering that way round. Does it still make sense? Or
I think so. Because it's are you into weird cinema or not?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the frames of reference in these are actually nothing to do with Hammer. They're nothing to do with children's television in the 80s when we grew up. It's not like they're mentioning He-Man and fucking Transformers and Rent-A-Ghost or whatever, you know.
I forgot about Rent-A-Ghost.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's fucking shit you've never heard of from 1957. You know, it's shit you've never heard of from you know, fucking Nigel Neal writing a fucking sitcom. You
No,
know,
no, I
you
get
don't
that,
need the frame of reference to be interested. You know,
but I don't know. I think there's threads of it that well, like it's the whole how did that can't get on telly thing, right? It's they are kind of connected to things that we are familiar with. I'm just wondering if you sever the connection entirely and just going if it's still. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with either. I'm just saying I can't imagine it myself. Somehow I lack the imagination. So it's good to hear the both of you say that actually maybe it does.
Case in point.
Right.
Right. Never heard of this. Never heard of this bloke before. Not in my generation.
No,
probably not watched anything around it either.
But that archetype though is, I mean, you will have seen like
okay,
Terry Thomas or someone like that, or you know.
Okay. You know
what I mean?
Yeah. But I suppose, you know, I mean, if you know, I'm probably going to do, you know, millennials, Gen Z, whatever, you know, people call themselves these days, says old man Darren. You know, if that's not your frame of reference, then perhaps, you know, the little clip of, I don't even know what film or TV show it's from, you know, the clip of Steve Buscemi, you know, dressed up like a youth with a skateboard going around a school hall saying, "Oh, hello kids, I am also a kid." You know, maybe that's your frame of reference. And that's how you get that.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying it wouldn't work. It's interesting for me to consider how it would work with. I'm not saying wouldn't, but it'd be interesting because they would be coming at it from such a like some of this would just be, like what the.
But then you know that the excitement of the weird, the excitement of the new, the new to you, right? Is taken me through.
What I'm saying is, I think for us, this is a mix. This is the perfect mix of the new mixed in with the familiar, right? Which is kind of the perfect blend, isn't it? You're not totally left hanging, but you're filling in gaps, and you know. So, but anyway, great. I'm glad we all enjoyed it. Go and get William Fowler and Vic Pratt. Yes, do the thumbs up, Nick. There we go. Side of quality. Right. Should we fuck off?
Yes.
I think we should. We should.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for doing weird shit with your camera and falling off your chair and dropping things.
Yeah. How did this cunt get on a podcast?